And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore. We never sit out. We are your hosts, MD and CD. What is going on? We got more postseason moves. We're recording this. It's currently still the postseason because the national championship game is on Monday. Yeah, you guys will be watching this probably several days after the national championship game. So don't spoil it for us, please. Anyways, we got transfer portal. We got coaching carousel. Who are the coaches we're talking about today? Well, those pictures right there. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like the content, like the video. Like that's what you gotta do. Subscribe. Consider subscribing, please. If you're listening on Spotify, we're going to be talking about Brian Vincent. We're going to be talking about Jay Sovell. We're going to be talking about Bob Chesney. And then 10 other players that have been entered into the portal and committed. So we're going to be talking about their fits, where they're going, what those teams are losing, what those teams are gaining. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. CD, what do you got?
Yeah, thanks for clicking on the video, guys. Remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying it. If you haven't done so already, we love the support and the interaction from you guys. Yeah, we got another postseason moves. Ones I love these. We get to deep dive into some coaches and some players that maybe you haven't really heard of, or that are you want in new scenarios, new scenes, and maybe like do some good things for the teams they will be joining.
I agree 1000%. And these are some, we're going to give some love to the Sun Belt today and the Mountain West. Two conferences that we have loved covering all year.
And you guys loved listening to us cover them for sure. Those
Yeah.
numbers, those videos did awesome. But unfortunately, it's not always sunshine and roses, is it?
No, it is not. Fortunately, when you have coaching turnover like this, it's not like it can be a good thing. Like James Madison, it's a good thing, right? You had a lot of success. Kurt Cignetti goes off. Now he's literally a Power Five, a Big Ten coach. That's awesome. Places like Lou Monroe, not so much, right? You lose Derry Bowden. We'll get into it. Wyoming, Craig Bull, legend, goat at Wyoming there. And well, yeah, we'll see how that works out. But let's just get into it. What do you say? Let's talk Brian Vincent. Let's talk Lou Monroe. Yes, we're talking about the Sun Belt today. Talking about the Louisiana Monroe Warhawks. They lose their coach, but guess what? Look, Terry Bowden, it's not that great, right? But what coach at Lou Monroe has been great?
Mm, it's been a while. It's really hasn't been really ever in the FBS ranks.
So, CD, in your opinion, what is there anything that makes this an attractive job at all?
Being in a conference, that's fantastic. We love the Sun Belt.
Love
Okay,
the Sun Belt.
right. I don't know if ULM has quite the funding for a good salary for these guys, for a pay increase and for a good thing. As Terry Bowden was literally making 435K, which is literally the lowest publicly available salary of any FBS coach in college football. That is tough to be at if you are trying to find good quality candidates. When you maybe want to take a guy from the P5 ranks, a very up and coming coordinator from the Power Five, you want to lure him to be a head coach, but you're literally going to have to lure him with a pay decrease. Right? A lot of these Power Five coordinators are making almost $1 million. That's double your budget right now. It's not like you have the income from like a surplus income from a buyout because Terry Bowden, you kind of had to pay him out and whatever. But it's not like someone like with James Madison, which we'll talk about. Percinetti was $1.2 million to buy him out. And so you get that money to spend back into the football program, yada, yada, yada. And unfortunately, they don't really have the funds here to do so yet. We'll see what the Sun Belt does with their TV deals coming up here. Hopefully they get going with that because I do think it's a very good conference and it's building up to be that fifth best conference in college football.
But that just makes it harder for the bottom feeders,
That's the
right, to
thing.
climb up.
You're adding James Madison, you're adding Old Dominion, Southern Miss, Marshall, all these teams that are better programs than you are resource wise and in positions to succeed and come in right away, as we saw James Madison do the past couple of years. So it's tough. But I do like the hire. I like the hire. I think the spot is tough, but I think what Brian Vincent did is exactly what they needed to do at ULM. They were dead last in the Sun Belt in offense, very far behind a lot of the programs where they want to be at. Similar position that New Mexico was in, right? Just a year ago, right? In 2022, I think they were dead last in the Mountain West. They had 228 yards per game. And just a year with Brian Vincent under the helm, they are up to 410 yards per game. Good for fourth in the Mountain West. That is awesome. And I get and they did it at a team that was obviously not very talented. They did it in a losing effort a lot of times where Danny Gonzalez ended up getting, fired there. They got new coaches and whatnot going in there to New Mexico. But Yeah, I think he's a very interesting offensive mind. He had success everywhere he's been at. UAB, he was in the Sun Belt with South Alabama when they first started. He was in the Sun Belt with UAB, rebuilding that program back when they eventually reinstated a football program. So if there's anybody that can do it, right? In my opinion, anybody can do it and really get this program in a little bit better spot, right? Start making 4 to 5 wins, 6 wins every once in a while. It might be Brian Vincent.
Yeah, so who is Brian Vincent is a really good question with all of this. As CD was mentioning, he is was former offensive coordinator at New Mexico. Also was former offensive coordinator at UAB until he took over in the interim spot for that year that they went 7-6. Dwayne McBride went for 1,700 yards, yada yada yada. Pretty good season for them, if you ask me. And then he's also at South Alabama on their offensive staff. Uh, so I really tried to dive in, like, what's the connection here, right? Like, how did so ULM, right? It's their first year of their AD, right? His name is John Hartwell. He's from Mobile, so I thought, maybe there's a connection there with South Alabama. John Hartwell went to the Citadel, so nowhere even close to South Alabama. They were never even in Mobile at the same time, so hard to see that. Maybe he had some friends that heard some things around the program at South Alabama, but John Harbaugh, he's been he's been a AD at a couple different places, Utah State notably, and notably at Troy. And he actually hired Neil Brown originally at Troy, which in hindsight was a pretty good hire. Ended up getting promoted to a Power Five job at West Virginia. So I would say that's a pretty good that was a pretty good hire. He got that one right there at Troy. Can he get this one right again? It's a very complicated, very, very complicated job. Like CD said, you need to bring in kind of an offensive mind, and it looks like they kind of did that for the most part, but really it's just such a tough spot. It is such a tough spot. When we talk about coaches, we're gonna give our grades later. We always do. Right? If you haven't checked out our early coaching videos, please do that. Like and subscribe, of course. But like those videos more importantly, comment. Give us more intel and things. We miss things, of course. You have to understand expectations before you give someone a grade, right? Like you need to understand, like, a B for us is like they're gonna meet those expectations uh reasonably. A's, they exceed expectations. C's, that they will not meet them, right? And what are the expectations, right? Like, we try to be as realistic as possible, but we also have to look at what is the fans looking at for? What are the ADs looking for? Like, what are their expectations? We're trying to balance that here. Everyone's expectations are a little bit different, but here's the reality of the Louisiana Monroe program. All right. In the comments, I want you to go right now to the comments if you're watching this video, and I want you to guess the number of bowl games that Louisiana Monroe has been in. I'll give you 5 seconds.
They've been in power in the FBS since 2001, by the way, just to give you some context.
All right, all right. I'll give you that is less than 5 bowl games. All right. Now I want you to tell me the record. All right. Now there's a lot of different combinations you're looking at. I want you to give me the record. What's the record? All right. How many wins, right? That comes along with the record. Just tell me the number of wins. All right. Here's your answer. Number of bowl games that they've been a part of. They've been to one bowl game, and they lost that bowl game. They're 0-1 all time in their program in bowl games. That is the kind of level of program that we're talking about here. Lowest paid head coach in college football, publicly available salaries. That's the kind of program that you're dealing with. And in that bowl game, right, they played against Ohio in the Independence Bowl in, what was it, 2012, 2005 or something like that? 2012, I believe. They lost that by 31, which currently stands as an Independent Bowl record of the largest margin of defeat in that bowl game. All right. That is the kind of level of program that we're dealing with, and it's difficult. And I'll agree with Christopher that this is a good hire for what you're going to get. Like, probably some of the best of the barrel that you're going to get, but it's not it's not a program saving hire, I don't think, necessarily.
Yeah, I do think COVID really struck this team pretty badly. They were kind of getting going under Matt Vider as much as they could as ULM program. They were at 6-6, 5-7, right, winning almost on average about 5 games a year, up to 2019, and then 2020 struck, and they went
Yeah.
0-10, and
I
then
mean,
they had to
what?
fire Matt Vider. Terry Bottom stepped
COVID.
over, and it really struggled. And he gained 8. They won 4 more games than they did the year before, and they went to 4-8. But then it just didn't get much better, and eventually got worse this year. And so they decided to make the change there. It's tough though. It's really, you mentioned the expectation is it's not an easy place to win at for sure. It probably one of the hardest jobs in college football, and that's where you got to
Yeah.
go and get a guy from a group of 5 coordinator spot where you can't even lure a Power 5 guy. It's very, very tough. It is very, very tough out there for ULM. They do have good talent in the state though, but you have a lot of hands coming in there, and it's a lot of mouths to feed as well. So it's tough, obviously. But in the portal era, maybe you got a chance to get some kids that come home if homesick, but you also have ULL there, right? Louisiana, University of Louisiana, and then obviously Arkansas State's not too far away, and then obviously all the Texas and Mississippi schools as well.
The Alabama schools, the Mississippi schools. I mean, just
It's a lot of competition there,
there's
and
so much. It's overwhelming for a program like this. Like it really, it is hard to compete.
which is why you need a guy that can win and elevate without the talent to have. And that's why I think Brian Vincent was so attractive to this administration, to the AD, because of what he did at New
They
Mexico
did their homework.
with less superior talent. It was a good find for him, for sure.
They
It was
did
a
their
really
homework.
good find. And also an interesting crossover between the AD and Brian Vincent is they actually, well, I don't know, there's a bunch of crossover, but he's from Mobile, right? The AD
Yeah.
but Brian Vincent
We talked
actually
about that.
came up with in the high school ranks in Alabama, was a very successful high school coach in the state of Alabama. So maybe there's connections there and whatnot. He respected him for doing all of that. But obviously no coaching or like same actually staff in overlap. So not much to go off of there. But I do think it's tough to. It's really, really tough. The expectation is what? 4 wins a year? 5 wins?
The expectation
Make a bowl
is
game?
4 wins. Like that like year over year, like you're gonna average 4 wins if you're meeting expectations, right?
I think
The problem is though, as an AD, like that's not what gets donors.
you can't sell
Like
that.
you can't sell that. You can't sell not making bowl games. So here's the thing. My expectations, right, for this are going 4-8 every single year. And he can do that for 4 years in a row and he'll get canned because that was not the AD's expectations, right? Like so it's just or the fans' expectations. So I will give this it's hard to give it a it's hard to give it anything higher than a B. I'll give it a B minus because I think that they could meet my expectations, but my expectations are going to be way different than the fans and the AD's expectations. So I don't think they meet the fans and AD's expectations, but I think they can meet. I think Brian Vincent can win 4 games a year. I mean, their schedule looking at next year, they might not win a single game.
Jackson State, they'll probably be favored in, and we'll see how Southern Miss and Marshall and some other schools. But it's a tough conference. Like the Sun Belt's really deep. We saw that in the regular season, not so much in the bowl season, but we saw it in the regular season. But obviously, a program like ULM and the lack of funding and endowment they have there cause you to have some buy games. You have to go to Texas, which they go next year. You have to go to Auburn and get slaughtered and take the check, take the losses. And unfortunately, that's not helping you make a bowl game. That's not helping Brian Vincent keep his job there.
No,
I don't know. I'm gonna go, but here's the deal: if it's 4-8, if to me, I think the expectation is 5 wins. That's a realistic one. Every once in a while, you make a bowl game. Okay, and if you improve the APR,
I mean they've had one bowl game in the last 30 years.
but I think if Brian Vincent wants to keep his job and get contract extension, like in 4 years, he has 4 years to make a bowl game.
That's what I'm saying, and that's a very like lofty expectation.
Very
That's
large
fans and ED expectations. That's not. Is that your expectations?
No, but that's the reality of his situation that he's in right now. Unfortunately,
So I have to
Is it
balance
unfair?
it. So
Absolutely.
you have to balance it.
Is it why this job was maybe not as attractive as other jobs that we covered this offseason? Absolutely. But also like you're getting a little pay raise, right, to come over to ULM from a group of 5 coordinator job. So we'll see though. I do think here's what I'll do. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I have a really good feeling about this job. I'm gonna go B plus here. I think ULM, it's been a lot of doom and gloom so far in this video. I do think he gets it done here. I do think they make a bowl game in 2026, 2027. He gets it done with the running game. The thing is with this, like you can scheme up some wins here. And if you get two to 3 wins in the out conference and you got to just scrape together 3 wins in the Sun Belt, you can get it done. You can get it done there. And I don't know. I think what he can do with his running backs, and that's a good sell in the portal, what he's done. To be able to get some guys that maybe are frustrated with their playing time where they are at, and they're like, hey, I want to be in this offense here. We saw Dwayne McBride and others have a lot of success running the football with his offense. Let me go back and get it done here.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on your thought of like, the payment of this coach. Like if you're going to take this job as a head coach, you're getting a pay decrease, right? Like, and you see like a lot of the national media covering, and it's like, I don't think like a lot of them do understand this very well, but a lot of them like don't. Like a lot of them will like give this higher like a D plus or C minus. Oh, they hired the New Mexico offensive coordinator, right? Like they cannot afford. They literally cannot afford to pay. What is Elijah Robinson would have made over $1 million as a defensive line coach.
Yeah.
if he had stayed at Texas A&M. That is double what Brian Vincent is making as a head coach of a college football program. Not only a head coach of a college football program, a head coach of one of the worst college football programs out there. So it's like, how do you, how could you possibly lure a Power Five coordinator to this job? You can't do it. You can't do it.
Terry Bowden was a pretty low level coach at Clemson before he got to ULM. This is not. It's not. It's kind of the reality of the situation. But the thing is, you can catch fire with one of these guys. You can do it. You can absolutely do it here. And I think, I don't know, like setting the world on fire at ULM. He's probably going 6-6, 7-6, or 7-5 with a bowl game. But yeah, it's just unfortunate throughout the situation. But who knows? Who knows? With a lot of shakeup going on in college football, a lot of things can happen. Sometimes with revenue sharing, maybe you start helping you out here with equal sharing throughout the conference. That could help you out in the future. As of right now, as it stands, you mentioned it, like that's the reality of the situation at ULM.
Let's go to Wyoming. Let's go to the Mountain West. Let's talk Jay Sawvel. You're the Minnesota guy. I'll let I'll let you take this over a little bit. We were pretty negative on ULM. Well, I guess you were pretty positive on ULM. I see. I'm not
I was
negative.
positive on Brian Vincent, negative
Yeah,
on
negative on
ULM. That's
ULM.
the
That's
reality.
very different. Now, how do you feel as a Minnesota fan about Jay Sawvel
Here's the thing: like he did some good things there with Jerry Kill. Jerry Kill's also,
for 1 year?
yeah. I don't know how much Minnesota fans really missed him. Right, Joe Ross was infinitely better once he took over there. But it is what it is. He did some good stuff at Wake Forest, but he's also
Did
been
he? Mike Elko. Here's my thought on this. Mike Elko had a top 20 defense at Wake Forest before he took the job at Notre Dame. The next year, Jay Sawvel takes over. It is a top 75 defense. The year after is a top 100 defense. Then he gets canned.
yeah. But it's also like Mike
Wake
Elko's
Forest
special.
fans remember him very well.
Like Mike Elko's now the head coach at A&M. Like Jake Sawville's if he
He's
was
now the head coach of Wyoming.
yeah, but okay, but you say that like there's a difference there. And we love Wyoming. We
I'm just
love
saying.
Wyoming. We love it. Don't you worry. But it's also easy
Love
to play.
Wyoming. That's why I'm worried about you guys.
It's easy to play defense there, and that's why his defenses have played so well the past couple of years because you can't.
It's you can't throw the ball. You literally cannot throw the ball with 22-mile-per-hour crosswinds. Yeah, any defensive coordinator is going to look really good at Wyoming. Like, I don't know. I love the things that Craig Bull did there. I'm a huge fan of him. He got things done. He went to bowl games. He won games that he shouldn't have won. He had some good defense there. He created, hired staff to tailor to playing in Laramie. But to me, this is just, I don't know if it was like they didn't have time, but come on. Like, I know he probably, like Craig Bull probably ahead of time said, hey, I'm going to retire after this season. Like, you guys can start looking for a new coach. Or Craig Bull said, oh, this is my guy. I enjoyed working with him. I want to leave the program with him. If that is the case, this is a placeholder for whoever's going to come in next year or the year after. Like,
I think that's part of it. It sounds, I wouldn't say temporary, but like I don't know if he's done
he's a
anything in his
bridge
career.
coach.
Yeah, and the thing is, like at a program
I
like
hate
Wyoming,
bridge coaches.
why are you doing that?
I
Like,
hate bridge coaches. Why? Why? Okay.
I
I understand.
there's
Okay,
a lot of pressure to win.
Mike Leach is a different scenario, right? If your head coach passes away, right, and you have nothing left, and you have to hold your team together, your roster, and you have to hold your coaching staff together
And your community.
and your community together, like in times like that, and you have a guy like Zach Arnett, who, by the way, I think is a really good coach, and I think he'll get a job somewhere else. He's a great leader and all that stuff, but that is the time to promote within and use him as a bridge coach, right? This is a bridge coach scenario. Like I don't know. He was not a great coordinator in my opinion. He wasn't a, like amazing coordinator. I don't know. I'm not within the Wyoming program, so I'm sure there's a lot of different feelings towards him. And if you are a Wyoming fan in the comments and you are really positive about this hiring, please let me know. I would love to understand from an outsider's perspective because it's a very unique program, of course, like all these programs in the Mountain West. But when I see this from an outsider's perspective, I worry. I worry for the Wyoming program for these next couple of years.
Yeah, I do think you're right. I do. This is another part of it is like finances. Like that's to be honest, this is a business, and whoever tells you that, whoever disagrees with that, I think you're unfortunately wrong. Like this is the bottom line stuff for a lot of these programs. Like they need to meet budgets and whatnot. And Craig Bull was making $1.4 million, and Jay Sawville is going to make around $1 million. That is $300K that can be freed up elsewhere to use in your program or in your school. Like that's what these unfortunately these athletic departments and presidents have to meet those expectations and other standards. Part of that discussion they did talk about with Jay Saville with getting a pay decrease from Craig Bull was that they were going to put at least some of that money back in the football program with resources, with assistant coaching salaries, travel, recruiting expenses, all that good stuff for him to build his program. But also like that's another thing. Like it just feels like an easy, safe, I wouldn't call it cheap, but I would just say like discounted higher because Wyoming, Craig Bull, what he did there, they won a good amount of games the past couple years with him there. And this is looking like a good job. And I like Laramie, I know it's different, but it's a good, attractive place to be at. It's a very hard place to go in and win at, right? For opposing teams. But obviously, Craig Bull had some success there building a program. It's unfortunate. I don't know. I hope Jay does well, and I think he can if he just replicates what Craig Bowl did. But also, he's gonna go in there and make some changes and be his own person. And it kind of is what it is. That's the reality of the situation right now.
Yeah, so when we talk about grades, when we talk about coaches and hires, we talk about expectations. So what are your expectations for the program of Wyoming?
I don't know.
It's hard to say.
It you should be making a bowl game every year, and honestly, competing for some Mountain West games because what they've done a good job there. They've done a Craig Bowl had him in the conversation, right?
Yeah, I
Past
mean,
couple years.
you missed a bowl game in 2020 and 2015, and I guess before that you were pretty bad. But yeah, Craig Bull had the boys going. He was really good there. He was really good. And I don't know, like historically, like if Wyoming was like all that good in like the 90s or early 2000s or whatever, but with Craig Bull, they had something where they were consistently going to bowl games. I don't know if they're going to be competing for Mountain West titles. Like, I guess every team in the Mountain West, it feels like kind of has a chance to at least compete for a title once or twice. Even teams like Hawaii have had chances to compete for titles there. So I'm not asking Jay Sauvel, right? Those are not my expectations to compete for Mountain West championship year after year after year. But like you said, 6 wins, 7 wins. Can you meet those expectations? I I guess like with the continuity, like if you keep that staff similar and you kind of build out your roster structure in a similar way, where you have like okay offensive line, you have a really good running back that you lean on, a pair and a spare, as CD says, and you just have a defense that is good in the front seven, and kind of men in the back seven because you don't need a back seven when you're playing Laramie with 20-mile-per-hour crosswinds. So I don't know. I think like Jay Sauvel could do it, but like I have to give this hire the lowest grade that I've given. Higher this offseason. I'm gonna give it a C minus. I'm gonna give it very low. Like I think this was just lazy. I think they just didn't want to have to pay up. I think they maybe didn't know what they wanted to do, or the timing was not right for them. Whatnot. I think they could have gotten a lot better candidates.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, like he will be in the bottom half, like the bottom third, really of coaching salaries in the Mountain West, and obviously it make it a hard ask to compete with the top of those programs with the resources of a bottom half team in the Mountain West. Very tough to do. Craig Bull, a guy that did it very well, but you can really lean into Wyoming and into Laramie, which I think Jay Sawville has the benefit of being there for a little bit. At least gives him a chance to do so, and saw how Craig Bull did it. Maybe he can replicate that. I'll be a little bit higher. I'll go C plus area. I do think he will fail to meet expectations, but I don't think the bottom will fall out. I think he understands enough what he's doing. He's been under enough good coaches to be able to keep it together here for at least a couple more years. But
This is his first head coaching gig.
yeah, well, yeah. Well, so
So
it's obviously a risk in that sense, but I think I have some faith in him. He's an older guy, and his style of play, I think, really will benefit where he's at in Laramie. And I think that's part of the reason why they drew him there in the first place to be a defense coordinator, but also for the administration to believe in him enough to make him the head coach of Wyoming.
yeah, I mean to be fair, Craig Bull, I don't know if he was everyone's favorite hire when he got hired, and he did a great job. So look, if he can, there's a structure there to win. If Jay can stick to the plan, then he can succeed. He can succeed. I'm not saying he can't succeed. I just think that there were possibly some better candidates out there that they could have used some money on and some resources on. But who am I to say? I'm not in that program. It's such a unique program that it's hard for an outsider to understand. And I'm sure there's some Wyoming fans that are watching this that are like, this guy's crazy here talking. What is that? Does he know what Laramie's like? No, I've never been to Laramie, Wyoming to
We
watch a
want to
football
go
game.
though.
I
We
do
want to
I
go.
do want to go to Laramie to watch a football game, but just these are thoughts from an outsider's perspective. So thank you for joining my TED Talk. Now let's go back to the Sun Belt. We went Sun Belt, Mountain West Sun Belt. Let's go back to the Sun Belt. James Madison. They lose Kurt Signetti, which is a big loss because you also lost a ton of talent to the transfer portal, NFL draft, etc. Okay. But you bring in a guy by the name of Bob Chesney from Holy Cross, which a lot of people's initial reaction, what I think was confusion. Like, like James Madison's like this gigantic job. James Madison is a very, very good job. Okay. It is a very good job, but also it's very new to the FBS levels. Its success is it's an outlier, right? You don't see a lot of teams like that. Boise State's one of those exceptions. JMU is one of those exceptions where you introduce them to the FBS levels and they succeed right away. That was pretty crazy to me, and I think it was crazy to a lot of people as well. Bob Chesney, though, who is Bob Chesney? Where has he been? Was at Holy Cross most recently as their head coach. Okay, went to the college football playoffs 5 out of the last, or sorry, first place in their conference 5 out of the last 6 years. Before that, Holy Cross had a winning record only 1 out of 6 years, a losing record 5 out of those 6 previous years. So the turnaround there was pretty massive. At Assumption, when you hear former players talk about Bob Chesney too in like interviews and stuff, like or on Twitter or whatnot, they love him. There's a player that I remember from an interview talking about Bob Chesney and his time at Assumption that Bob Chesney came in for that last year of that kid's career at that program, and they were a losing program at Assumption, and he turned it around immediately with a very business-like, uh, hard-nosed, just detail-oriented approach, and they got it done, and they immediately turned around to a winning program. At Salve Regina, he also had a winning program there. He's just been successful everywhere he's gone, and it hasn't mattered where he's gone yet, right? Now, the FBS is a completely different ballgame. The Sun Belt is not an easy conference to coach in at all. It's going to be certainly a challenge, and he might not get it done year one the way that you think he does, right? But he didn't get it done year one at Holy Cross. I think Holy Cross, that was his only losing season. He went 5-6, and after that, he won 5 straight conference titles and took his team to 3 college football playoffs. So I personally like the Chesney hire. I said it. What about you?
No, I love it too. I think to capitalize on the success and the lightning that you caught in a bottle with Kirk Signetti found his way to a massive pay increase to Indiana. But guess what? You get that buyout, as we mentioned earlier in the videos, right? You get $1.2 million to spend on your football program, to spend on this hire, to spend on recruiting staff, recruiting pool or recruiting budget and assistant coaching pool and all of the good stuff that needs a program to thrive and that Bob Chesney understands. And that's part of the reason why he probably took the job as well. He's won everywhere he's been. Like you said, he's 46 years old. Kirk Cincinnati had James Madison humming. The problem is in this day and age with the transfer portal, it is very hard to replace a coach like that with a lot of people heading all over the place. Jordan McLeod, we don't know where he's going to end up. Maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. I'm sure Bob Chesney would love to have him back, but there's a lot of options there for James Madison. They're done with their bowl ban now. So starting next year, I believe they're immediately eligible to play in the postseason and the Sun Belt Conference Championships and all that good stuff. It just sounds like such a great fit. But it's also like there's a lot of change happening at the top of the Sun Belt, right? The two best teams in the Sun Belt this year were probably Troy and James Madison. Both those teams are changing new coaches. Right? That's a big deal for this. And I think Bob Chesney
Powerhouse Lou Monroe's also changing their coach.
that's true for a different reason, but nonetheless, they are changing their head coach. I think Bob Chesney is the guy that really gets me excited in the Sun Belt more than just about anybody. Now, here's the deal. Like, unfortunately, the reality situation is like, if you hit on him again, which you hope you do, obviously, James Madison, the problem is in a couple years, 4 to 5 years, he will probably be gone to another program, just like Kirk Signetti did. But that's just the reality of it. But it's also
That's a game.
It's a good problem to have. If you continue to hit on these coaches and continue to be at where you're at, we talked about it with Willie Fritz, we talked about it with John Summerall at Troy now, like or at Tulane now, like that's what you want. You want him in a couple years to have to take a promotion because he's doing so well. Right. That's a good thing. It's a good problem to have. And you can just keep churning out the successful pattern you've had, just like Boise State's done, right? Repeating the success over coaches, over coach, over coach, over coach, and how Troy's kind of got done too with Neil Brown and John Summerall. So we'll see here. We'll see here. But I do love it. That's a 5-year deal. The actual salary is not public yet. but I assume it'll be somewhere a little bit more than what Bob Chesney made, which is about 400K,
Kurt
500K.
Cincinnati, you mean?
Sorry, Kirk Cincinnati, 400K, 500K ish.
Which is low, like
Very low in the
very
Sun
low.
Belt. It's a little bit higher than ULM, but I'm sure Chesney will get a nice little increase. And here's the deal: like JMU is a program that was in the was in the FCS and now in the FBS. So now they have FBS money and
Hey, and
resources.
the Sun Belt had 12 teams go to bowl
A
games.
lot of money to be spread
A
around all over
lot
the
of
conference.
money to be spread
And
around.
part of that's due to James Madison, and they're lucky for the NCAA that they're bowl ban as well. So we'll see. We'll see. I do love the direction James Madison is humming going in. I think they can continue to compete under Bob Chesney. He's a guy that was so hot, coaching carousels and coaching rumors. Like he was a guy that's like, okay, who's gonna get Bob Chesney? Like from the FBS ranks, like where's he gonna end up? He's gonna end up at Syracuse. Like that was a real deal, a Power
Yeah,
Five job, a legit Power Five job. Boston College, if that opened up early in the season, people were talking about it. If that opened up, so you can end up there. He's six on the East Coast with James Madison, and they're lucky to have him, I think.
I agree. And one thing that I'll say too, like when you have a coach, right, that gets a promotion, right? I'll say promotion, success, whatever it is, when they're doing well, okay, and you have former player. Remember, former players are not obligated to say or do anything to their former coaches. They don't have to say anything. But when you have a slew of former players come out in just overwhelming support, you have got players taking interviews saying he was amazing. He turned around this program. He made me the man who I was today. Like that's the kind of stuff that you're looking for, and I think it's very, very, very valuable. So I'm all over it, man. I am all over this hire. Let's go Dukes. Let's go Bob Chesney. Let's go James Madison. It might, like we said, it might not happen year one. Boo hoo. All right. Bob Chesney is here to build a program, right? He built programs at Holy Cross. He built a program at Assumption. He built a program at Salve Regina. He's here to build programs, right? He's not here to coach football. He's here to build programs. So I'm super super excited.
Yeah, in the short term, you got a bunch of players that are pretty dynamic that from Holy Cross that were looking to jump up to the FBS level and enter the portal. I believe there's about four of them that could really make that jump there and follow Bob Chesney over to him. Headliners would be Matthew Sluka at quarterback,
Stud.
obviously. Yeah, very dynamic player. Oh,
You saw him play against Boston College. Gave Boston College a scare this year.
Arkansas, BYU, Duke, Cal, everyone in that Power Five and that kind of level really wanted a guy like him. He's a baller as well, and some other guys on defense and on the O line. So we'll see what he does here. I think it'll be. I don't know if it's a total rebuild here, but there's a lot to be done.
There's a lot of
Lot of
missing
moving,
pieces.
lot of moving parts as well. But if anyone can do it, we saw the immediate success he's had at other places. I think he does it here as well. What's the expectation at James Madison?
See that, and that's such a difficult question because they've only been in the FBS for 2 years, right?
Not much sample size for
Not much
you.
sample size. Both years they went 6-2, 7-1 in the Sun Belt. So it's like they can win ball games. They can compete. The expectation I think is to compete for Sun Belt championships every once in a while and win 8 games, win 9 games. I think that's actually the expectation of James Madison kind of going into this thing. Like, and should that be? Is that fair to a program that's only been in the FBS for 2 years? I don't know that that's fair. But I think that's the expectation that we're walking in with this, and I think a lot of other people are walking into this as well. So I for this hire, I give it a B plus for sure. I think when we talk about grades, we'll reiterate this: B, meeting expectations; A, exceeding expectations; C, not meeting expectations. I think Bob Chesney will definitely meet expectations with a chance of exceeding them. So I'll give it a B plus. I really like this hire. B plus is a great grade for me. A B is a good grade for me. Come on, guys. So for you haters out there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go a step higher than you. I'm gonna go an A, just a flat A. I am super high on Bob Chesney and what he can do here. And the best part about Kirk Cincinnati, what he did was, and it was so impressive, is his staff, with all his connections all throughout college football, was so good, so elite. You saw him bring a ton of them to Indiana. Obviously, JMU has to replace him and the rest of his staff, but he's done a good job, Bob Chesney, in bringing some guys from Holy Cross that he trusts and understands him and that knows exactly what he needs for in his program. You're bringing in a couple guys from Duke, a couple guys from Old Dominion, keeping a couple guys on James Madison's staff from the holdover from Kirk Cincinnati. It's a nice little like band-aid that you put on this program and then eventually get it humming in the Sun Belt. With all the moving pieces, with Troy, yada, 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 everyone else there, App State, Coastal Carolina, there's a ton of good programs in the Sun Belt. I think they're going to be one of the teams at the top every year competing for it. And eventually, how about this? You think it's a realistic realistic possibility Bob Chesney and James Madison makes the college football playoffs in the next 5 years?
Well, uh,
You don't say they will, but it's a realistic possibility.
I'm gonna say the odds are like plus 2,500, and I would not take those odds, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'd not take that at all.
Regardless, though, I think
Actually,
they'll be
no,
in that
2,500.
conversation.
In the next 5 years, I guess that's pretty fair. I don't know. Well, based on their success, I think that's still very expensive. Like meaning like you're not getting good value probably, but that's probably what it would be at, I guess, because people are really high. That's probably what Vegas would set it at, just because people are high on James Madison, they know the name. You know,
Here's the deal. If they had
it's probably
Boise
more than
State's
that.
uniforms this year, they would have been ranked in the top 15. Absolutely. And absolutely competing for that 12th, that at-large bid for the group of five powers at play. You got to beat out Tulane. You got to beat out other players in your conference. Boise State, Liberty, Air Force. But Liberty also in the CUSA is very tough to take seriously on a national level because of their lack of competition in that conference. So I think they have a real shot here. That's their goal. I believe that's Bob Chesney's goal. I'm sure he said it when he got hired. That's what they want to do, and to give them a shot at the big boys once they get their chance.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him get settled in before I start talking the CFP for this guy. But I think this is a great hire. Now let's get into our transfer portal talk today. The first player we're going to talk about, let's talk about Malik Murphy. All right, this guy's a very good talent. All right, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And there's going to be people in the comments that are saying, actually, I don't know. I don't know what you guys like to say in the comments. It's different every time, but people saying like, well, what does that Texas locker room look like? And then they lose, of course, in the Sugar Bowl. It's like, what is that Texas locker room? Is that Texas locker room falling apart? No, it is not falling apart, right? Like literally because of the college football calendar, we've said this before. Like he has to get in the transfer portal so he can get enrolled by spring semester so he can practice in the spring for Duke, right? Which by the way, this is a great get for Duke. I mean, they beat out the team like South Carolina. I know they were in on them, but they couldn't promise him a quarterback spot or starting spot. I know Duke did. And with Riley Leonard gone, you know Grayson Loftus was a stud this year at times. Won me money against Wake Forest. Love that man for that. But here's the thing. Blake Murphy is much better. He's very talented. I know it didn't necessarily show, like if you're looking at like the box scores of those games that he started for Texas this year. But you're telling me that you get a guy with those kind of tools, right? And that kind of experience, running that kind of offense, with legit Power 5 experience. I'll take him all day. I'll take him all day.
If you're Duke, for everything that happened this offseason, losing Riley Leonard, RJ Oben, a bunch of guys to the portal,
Brandon Johnson,
a bunch of coaches
your
over
offensive
to
line
A&M,
coach, your director of player personnel,
DBs, Ishmael Aristidine,
Miles Jones goes to the NFL.
It's been a tough offseason, and this is a nice silver lining to get you back some momentum. This is a guy that a lot of people wanted after the spring. People saw his spring game tape and are like, "Whoa, I want some of that." Steve Sarkisian shut him down. They said, "No. We're gonna make sure he stays here." They needed him, and they needed him this year.
They
and
needed
he came
him
through.
They would not have been in college football playoffs. I'll stand by that.
Without him, absolutely. And Texas fans, I think, are forever grateful for him because of that. Unfortunately, he's in a loaded room with Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. I think he would have started over Arch Manning next year for sure. And he's
assuming Quinn Ewers comes back, right? Which we believe he, or sorry, if he hadn't come back, which we believe he's coming back.
Yes,
obviously.
And that's part of the reason why Murphy's in the portal. So he gets to unite with Jonathan Brewer, right? The SMU quarterback coach that's heading up there to run a similar offense that Rhett Lashley ran at SMU.
Great offense.
Heyman Diaz, very quarterback friendly. I think he can thrive there. I think this is big time get here. He's got the arm talent. He's got the legs. He's got everything you want. Physical body. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. 2 years of eligibility left. So he's redshirt. 3 years of eligibility left. Sophomore.
Redshirt sophomore.
He will be a redshirt sophomore. We love that on the show here. But yeah, I think Malik Murphy. This was awesome. I was expecting more powers at play to be after him, and it was a little bit disappointed. But yeah, and they got him in there, and they just locked him down.
It was quick.
And I'm sure they had to do some NIL stuff, but also like it's not easy. It's not too hard to sell. Hey, Duke degree. You got to get on a really good coaching with Jonathan Brewer and Manny Diaz, and get to play at a high level in the ACC. So we'll see here. And they've had a good lineage of Duke quarterbacks, to be honest, ever since the old regime. And then obviously Riley Leonard has had a lot of success there so far with Mike Elko, and he's going to continue that, I think.
Yeah. So good luck to Malik Murphy. I think he will be really good for them. I just hope that that offensive line can stay together and protect them. Even though he's a big boy, he can handle it. Fortunately, Jacquez Moore will have in the backfield there. I don't know what the receivers. Jalen Calhoun's gone, I believe. So yeah, it'll be tough to see what they start lining up out there. I haven't looked at Duke's transfer portal list yet, besides Malik Murphy, but we'll see. Good luck to Malik Murphy. Let's talk one of my sneakily most favorite players in this portal.
Yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube, first of all, stop what you're doing, like the video. Second of all, if you're listening, you can see it on the graphic. Second of all, if you're on Spotify, I'll tell you who it is right now. It's Josh Kelly, wide receiver from Washington State. If you haven't heard his name, it's because your bedtime is too early, right? Not watching those late night Pac-12 games. Josh Kelly is a freaking stud. Dude, he is a stud and a half. Came from Fresno State, transferred over to Washington State, and he balled out this year. Didn't reach the 1,000-yard mark, right? I don't care, right? This guy, like the amount of catches that he made in that Oregon State game. If you want to watch a game where like you can see, like physically see a wide receiver take over a game, go watch the Oregon State game. Go watch him make those one-handed catches. Go watch him just moss kids. Go watch him run those routes. Go watch him separate. Like he absolutely dominated. And you know what?
He's a guy that came over from Fresno State, right? And you talk about
Yes.
Cam Ward like making a jump this year.
Oh,
It was Josh Kelly and Ben Arbuckle and everyone else there, like, and Josh and Cam Ward himself is uber
yeah.
talented.
And
But
then
it was
Victor,
Kelly.
was also another good wide receiver there.
They had some guys, but it was Kelly that made a huge difference in that room on that offense. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, there were a bunch of receivers in the room that I thought were really good, but I think Josh Kelly stood out in particular. And you have Texas Tech. You lose Miles Price, you lose Jaron Bradley, but Josh Kelly is a larger and more productive version of Miles Price. That is what he is. He's an absolute freak. I've loved his game all year watching him, and really, I just kind of discovered him this year, like big time discovered him this year for the first time. He played significantly at Fresno State. He just kind of popped on my screen, and I really wanted to talk about him today. I know you were super high on him as well. If you just watch this game, I know he graded out only like a 71 on PFF, which is not very high. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the all 22, so I don't know how he blocks in the run game, to be honest. So I don't have his tape for that. But what I can tell you for a fact is he is a great, great pass catching receiver. So I'm a 6'2", 182. I'm gonna give this is like if we're giving grades the transfer portal gets, this is an A. This is an absolute A. This is a home run. I think he is awesome. Texas Tech fans, you are gonna love this man. Telling you.
He will be a big addition to Baron Morton and what they can do in the passing game, which at times was pretty limited this year with Texas Tech. A good compliment to that run game with Taj Brooks. Yeah, he was awesome. He catches everything, one-handed catches, contested catches, deep balls, intermediate stuff. He is the complete package. A legit wide receiver one for you in the Big 12 there for Texas Tech. He's awesome. Average over 15 yards per catch. Like he's a legit big play kind of guy. You mentioned the Oregon State game. Yeah, go watch that. Go watch that highlight video. That was incredible to watch what he did.
Freakish game. And Cam Ward popped off that game, but please watch Josh Kelly. Please watch him, man. He is so good. And Washington State fans, I know you're so disappointed to watch him go. He's only got 1 year of eligibility left, so this is it. This is his final run. I think it'll be a good one. I think some NFL scouts are gonna sneakily I think he's a day 3 guy next year. I think that's my hot take for this one is that he's a day 3 guy next year. All right, I think he's really good, and I think he could even be a day 2 guy if he performs that well. Now you got to drop off at quarterback, likely Texas Tech. So, but it seems like he's going to be kind of the featured guy there, along with 5-star. What's his name?
Micah Hudson.
Micah Hudson. Thank you.
That is a dynamic duo right there. For both those guys.
Could be pretty dangerous. Any other thoughts?
No, I love it for Texas Tech.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Tyler Barron, Tennessee edge rusher, going over to Ole Miss among many other players. We talked about Princely Umanmielen the other day. Edge rusher from Florida moving over to Ole Miss. You get another pass rusher. Tyler Barron's, he's a pure pass rusher, right? He's okay in the run game. PFF will tell you that too. I think he's an 83 grade on PFF as a pass rusher. Which is really high, actually. It's pretty solid.
Especially for pass rusher.
And then in the run game, it was a little bit lower, and it averaged out to be a little bit lower. That's what he is. 6'5", 260. 6 sacks, second on the team, 10.5 tackles for loss. I just think he's a good player. He's good depth. He'll be a starter for this Ole Miss team at edge, likely. But it doesn't hurt to have you can't have enough players in the defensive line. Like we've seen that with when you have dominant defensive lines, 1 through 4, 1 through 3, or if you rush 3, whatever. Not sure what they do over there. I'm not sure.
Pete Cohen's a 3-3-5 guy, right?
Three
Or
three
three
five,
four. I think
three
I
four.
probably runs nickel, but I believe he's 3 down linemen, and you got the 2 outside linebackers. He'll probably play that jack
Sure, I don't know that
linebacker
well enough.
spot for him.
Not the X's and O's guy here, but I like Tyler Barron a lot. I watched him a little bit. I'm not saying like he's one of the highest rated edge rushers in the portal class. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be that high. I think there's some other guys that are also really really good that I think were overlooked a little bit. But this is a really good get for Ole Miss, regardless.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think there's some stuff there and some rumors about his locker room and what yada yada yada. His
Who
character.
cares?
First of all, you can't believe everything you hear, and secondly, same thing we talked about with Princely, Uman Mielen, right, and Walter Nolan. Like these are freaks that are going to Ole Miss, and that you just love to have these bodies. Okay, like some of them are going to hit, some of them won't hit, sure, but to have the depth and to have those bodies in the pass rusher is dangerous in the SEC. Trying to block those 3 guys among others, and you got the blitzing linebacker as well. Like, it is. I love it for Pete Golden. I'm sure he's really thrilled to have him, and they got him locked down early. Right, he was one of the first guys to really get in that portal, and they locked him down, and then started the wave of defensive studs ending up in Ole Miss and Oxford for this year. And yeah, I love it for them. You mentioned he's big dude, 6'5", 260 with his length and power and power to speed and whatnot. He's a really good pass rusher for him at Tennessee.
Let's move on again. Let's go an SEC mover. Or sorry, oh, I have this flipped. I have the graphics flipped.
It's a little dyslexia here. That's okay.
A little dyslexia here. Gosh, I've been doing that recently, guys. Sorry about that. But Nyland Green is actually a Georgia Bulldog who's transitioning to be a Purdue Boilermaker under Ryan Walters. I think this is a great move for him. Like he got 94 snaps this year, right, as corner, which is pretty solid. He was a former 5-star player, top 30 player in the country. He's very, very freaking talented, right? But we also know that Ryan Walters runs a lot of man. He develops DBs. He's going to put Nyland Green in a chance to actually show off his athleticism and just how good he is. So I'm a big fan of like he's at least going somewhere and he's making a conscious decision about like the coaching staff and what they can do for him to put him in a position to succeed. So, just because Nyland Green is moving down from Georgia to Purdue doesn't mean that this guy can't be like an NFL talent in the future, or future All Big Ten player, future All American. Nyland Green is really, really good. Really, really, really good. I know there are a lot of Georgia DBs in the portal. I happen to like Nyland Green. Him and AJ Harris are studs, right? I happen to like those guys a lot. So this is a gigantic get for Ryan Walters. Good job on the get.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fit here at Purdue. We love it for him. And obviously, like Purdue does not get many of these guys out of the portal or even in high school ranks where like they're 6'1" with length, with speed, athleticism, and agility. And he was obviously getting coached up by some damn good defensive back coach, Fran Brown, for the past couple of years. Like he is, I think he's going to come in right away and elevate that room there on the back end for Purdue. They got Dylan Thieneman, right? He's their safety. They're all American or all freshmen, whatever you want to call it, on team for him. He was a stud in the back end. He's a great compliment to be him, a lockdown corner that they can have in the Big Ten, moving into teams where you have USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, guys with a lot of speed on the edge and a lot more passing tech. You're going to need guys like this that can cover them. And
it's a different ball game. It's no longer the Big Ten West.
Yeah, you don't have to beef up your D line and linebackers. You got to have shutdown corners to really help your defenses. And Ryan Walters, you mentioned like to make his defense looking really good. Lockdown corners is what it is. We saw Devin Witherspoon. We saw
guys
others
that play
down there
really well, really athletic, and they're solid and press man. That's what he needs.
And I think Nyland Green fits that mold exactly what Ryan Walters wants. And this was nice. This surprised me a little bit, but also like it doesn't. Like this is what the portal is becoming, where you have some of these guys that are like, I don't need the flash. I don't need to go to USC or to Miami and get a huge NIL bag. I'm going to go to where I'm going to get coached up really, really well, put in a scheme that's going to put on great tape for the NFL draft. And I'll still get some NIL love for sure, but also like I'm going to get coached up and developed and put in a spot where my future is going to be very, very bright. And I think that's what he's done here for himself.
Yeah, I really love the move for him. There were a ton of places that I could have said that I would love to move, but I do like the move, and like I don't like people that are haters on that, right? Oh, they're dropping down Georgia, Purdue, whatever. Like this is guy, yeah, sure, he was lost in the sauce of that DB room, which by the way is top 3 in the country
Ridiculous. I mean,
easily.
Julian Humphrey was just about to enter the portal because he was not getting playing time, and now he's
now he's
back and
back.
whatever. Like it, everybody wants a piece of those Georgia DBs, and Purdue gets
Yeah,
one.
because it's an automatic NFL bid is what it is if you're starting. It's an automatic NFL bid. So I'm gonna be very high on this for Purdue's sake, and I'm also gonna be very high on this for Nyland Green's sake. Speaking of corners, DBs, let's talk about Cameron Richardson from Mississippi State transferring to Ole Miss. Another player that Ole Miss gets, and a pretty dang good one. I'd say he's a pretty dang good one.
One of the lone bright spots there for Zach Arnett's defense this year.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of troubles they had there, but he was legit for him.
I agree. And he's a guy that, well, PFF will agree with you. An 86.4 on PFF. That's very good.
It's good,
Easily
good for 7th in the country
yeah,
at cornerback position.
easily a top 10 corner in the transfer portal. If you're looking if you take the top 10, right? He's easily in the top 10, right? Probably a top 100 player as well. Probably maybe even a top 50 player. I don't know what all the rankings have him at, but I think he's a very, very solid player. There's 1 year of eligibility left, but I mean, Ole Miss is cashing their tickets now, so lock and load. I mean, there's certain schools that they don't buy in as much with the 1 year rentals necessarily, but I think Ole Miss is a team that can benefit from them greatly. 6'2", 176, lengthy. Looking if you're Ole Miss, of course you're gonna look at this and be like, you take another really good player from another particular school in the SIP that you don't love very much. That's going to be a win every single day in the book for Ole Miss. Mississippi State wonders kind of continue, I guess. With the new coaching transition, Jeff Levy. We'll see how all of that works out. Right, we'll see how all of that works out. But I think Cameron Richardson, you would have loved to have a veteran leader in that locker room, especially on the defensive side of the ball, with this whole coaching transition to kind of guide these younger players and through this new coaching change. But unfortunately, you're not going to have the luxury of that because he will be playing across the SIP over in Oxford. So, sorry, guys.
Yeah, you saw Ole Miss DBs get torched time and time again against some not so great passing offenses at times in the SEC there, and he's a guy that can come in right away and help them absolutely for them. Position of need, obviously they're going all in on the defensive side of the ball in the transfer portal, hitting on some guys. He's a guy 6'2", 6'1", length, athleticism, speed. He was a track guy in high school. That they really love him. I'm sure a lot of people wanted him, and Ole Miss is very excited to get him, and they got a good one for sure.
I agree.
He's real quick. He's the guy we talked about with the new coach that coming in from Mississippi State. I'm drawing a blank right now. Jeff Levy.
Jeff Levy.
Wow, I'm so sorry, Mississippi State. Jeff Levy. That was a guy. This guy they needed to keep him in staff, or on the team, and because of that new coaching staff, and he's a guy that obviously let go to a big rival, and that's a big loss for Mississippi State. But a good win for Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin.
Let's talk about RJ Oben. Now, I like RJ Oben. I think this is a good get for Notre Dame. I think they can use edge help. I think he's pretty fine. He was very good at Duke. Let's see, 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Tied for the team lead in sacks. Pretty solid. 1 year of eligibility. I just think this is like a good, nice piece for Notre Dame. Is he gonna take over? Is he gonna take over the college football? Not necessarily. I just think he's really good, and he's gonna be a solid piece, whether it's a depth piece or starter. I think he's gonna be productive either way. So, whether he's a rotational guy or not. So I'm all over this, and like we talk about this all the time. Like it's very hard to. I think pass rushers are more common in the transfer portal area than offensive linemen. But if you can beef up on the offensive or defensive line any way you can in the transfer portal, I think you go for it. Right, 1 year rental or not. So
especially with experience in a Power 5 conference. That is just so invaluable.
Yeah, I think he's really good. 6'4", 255. This guy can move, so I like him a lot.
Hey,
what are your thoughts?
You mentioned it. Is he going to be a game wrecker? Is he going to be a first round pick, top 15 player? Probably not, but he's going to be a guy that really elevates that room.
Let's clip that for next year when RJ Oben has 18.5 sacks.
I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he proves me wrong.
And he's like top 25 pick. Like, gosh,
for sure.
That would just be nuts.
I believe Riley Mills is coming back for you on the interior, right? He's running back 1 more year.
I believe so.
So it's going to be another name. They're going to have a nice defensive line there for Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman's defense there. And obviously they're looking to make some moves with Riley Leonard and some other pieces they've added in the portal to make a move at the college football playoffs next year. Looking pretty good so far. RJ Oben, obviously a big ad for them. He's a guy that a lot of people want in the portal, because of that experience, because of that length, and because of that, production he's had at a Power Five conference at a place like Duke, getting coached under a guy like Mike Elko and staff there. So this is nice for Notre Dame, and I think that's a smart move for RJ Oben too, right?
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, you just get what I would imagine. Well, I don't know. Manny Diaz is a really good coordinator. I don't know. I mean, he develops well too, defensive line wise, and would it have been more ideal to potentially transfer to Texas A&M with Mike Elko? I don't know. I don't know. But
That tells me all I need to know about RJ Odom, right? Yeah, everyone else wanted him pretty bad. Also, you can't blame the guy from going from a Duke degree to a Notre Dame graduate degree as well.
yeah,
That guy's set up for life there, no matter what happens in football and the NFL. But I do believe there's a pro career for him someday.
pretty stacked. I mean, looking, you're going to be playing next to Riley Mills, who played his last high school football game against us. So that's take that with what you guys will. And but yeah, no, that was a little jab at Riley Mills. Sorry, bud. You were pretty good though. I like Force. I'll give you that. Let's talk about Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback at Miami. Not anymore. He's going over to Wisconsin to play for Luke Fickell, Wisconsin. Yeah, I mean, like, if you look at his career, right? You look at his, redshirt freshman year, you just oogle and ah, where you're like, okay, this guy, those are almost 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns to like 9 interceptions as a redshirt freshman in only 10 games. Yeah, sign me up. Size, arm, a little bit of athleticism. Yeah, sign me up. I mean, he was already getting first round quarterback hype. My Mel Kiper's top 5 mock draft, whatever that first one that comes out in the summer that's stupid. Uh, he was on that, and it just has not clicked with the last 2 offensive coordinators at all. It just didn't. Uh, Tanner Mordecai didn't have a ton of success this year in Wisconsin offense, but as I've said before, Tanner Mordecai is a really good quarterback against G5 defenses. So we'll see what Tyler Van Dyke can do. I don't know if it's like him mentally like struggling. I know for a fact his redshirt sophomore year, it had to have been coaching, right? Like it was coaching. But Shannon Dawson, I like Shannon Dawson quite a bit. Uh, I don't really know what happened. It feels like he just kind of lost it a little bit. He just wasn't making like there was a while there though, like in the A&M game, he was unbelievable. He was making the throws. He was finding open guys. Now in that game particularly, there were a lot of open receivers. You know, there were a lot of open receivers, but we'll see how it works out in Wisconsin. He's like arguably not going to have as much talent around him. We'll see if the coaching staff can work with him a little bit better. I don't know. I feel like Wisconsin missed on Will Howard. I feel like they may have missed on some other quarterbacks. I mean, look, I don't know. We said that kind of about Graham Mertz last year, like, oh, Florida, like they missed on quarterbacks, and turns out Billy Napier was like, no, he was my guy. He was my guy, But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe this is Luke Fickell's guy, but I'm not sure. What are your thoughts?
Here's the thing. I think that Wisconsin room needed an overhaul on the quarterback system. They tried to do that last year. They brought in 3 transfers: Nick Ewers, Braden Locke, and obviously Tanner Mordecai. Tanner Mordecai was okay, hurt a little bit. We saw what Braden Locke can do. He was not ready for Big Ten football. Neither is Nick Ewers. They needed a little bridge guy there.
Ewers is changing positions, right? Is he not?
Yeah, exactly.
So tough.
Exactly. So they needed a guy like Tyler Van Dyke to come in, be a bridge guy, and it's also like we talked about with RJ Oben, like to lesser scale here, but like production matters and like snaps, experience, that all matters. And here's the deal, like it excites me a little bit for Wisconsin to work with Phil Longo. I think Phil Longo has a really good track record with quarterbacks. Tyler Van Dyke, I think maybe needed to change the scenery. I know he got to change of coaching, right? He's had like 3 different coordinators already. This is his 4th one. So it's not very great sign for Miami and Tyler Van Dyke. Obviously harder to learn a system in 1 year. Every offseason you're changing new ones, new terminology, new play calls, new styles, all that other good stuff. But I'm not making excuses for him. Like he was not very good this year. Outside of the NM game, he turned the ball over a lot. He got benched for a quarterback that was not very good in Emory Williams. And obviously it was more so because the coaching staff knew Van Dyke's a better quarterback, but it's also like the players in the locker room were just fed up with him and turning the ball over all the time. And is that going to change in Wisconsin? I don't know. But there's been hype around Wisconsin's quarterback for about 5 years now. And I haven't seen it. I really haven't seen it.
6. I'd say 6 years.
You think Alex Warnerbrook was hyped up?
No, I'm saying like Graham Mertz was there 4 years.
Yeah, he
And
was
Tanner
there.
Mordecai was there, and
That's
then now we
true.
have this is 6 years.
That's fair. This will be the 6th year. But
Jack Cohen.
Jack Cohen, regardless, Alex Hornibrook made this video. Good for him, man. He's still being talked about in 2024.
Shout out.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think as a Minnesota fan, right? It's all like a lot of times I love to judge these moves and the transfer portal and coaching carousels about like how your rivals react. I'm kind of if it works, it works. Good for them. But like, I don't know. I do think their talent in the receiver room is worse than it was last year, right? And last year was not very great. DK is down, I believe, over in the ACC as well. Um, Bryson Green, a guy from Bowling Green, Will Pauling. Is CJ Williams going to step up and be a guy? They loved him from USC, but he obviously did
Will
nothing.
Pauling is good.
Yeah, but and you're losing a guy like Braylon Allen and Ches Malushi. So we'll see. We will see there. But they're also like it was an adjustment to change from your Paul Chris style offense to a Phil Longo type offense, and that what Luke Fickle wanted to run. It takes time to get guys in there, change your offensive line, to change your receivers, to change your running backs and quarterbacks. Like it takes time for those schemes to be implemented. Van Dyke, maybe it looks better than Mordecai does, but also I don't know. I really don't know.
Let's talk about Kyle Kennard. Kyle Kennard or Kennard. He's a good football player. He was probably Georgia Tech's best player in their front seven this year. I mean, probably by
Yeah.
a long stretch. Led the team in sacks, led the team in tackles for loss. Uh, he's a good player. He's got 1 year eligibility left. I mean, possibly two. Because I never know with these guys. When I'm looking at these years, I think he started school in 2020 and he redshirted 1 year. So I'm like,
They have the COVID year, this
does
redshirt
he have a
year.
COVID year? I don't know. So like, but he's a
You
solid
also
player.
you also can apply for a waiver like Alan Bowman.
Yeah,
Shout out him though.
yeah.
Shout out
So you
him.
can just play 7, 8 years and just it doesn't matter, But this is a good pickup for South Carolina. I think they need some help there on the defensive side of the football, big time. He's going to be an improvement in the pass rushing game. He created turnovers. He's a havoc guy. This is a good get in the portal. You're keeping a guy, uh, which Georgia Tech would have loved to keep on their team, I think, for this year. But Shane Beamer's getting a good ball player.
He's a guy that staff was really hoping to take another step this year, and he did that with his development. Up to 6 sacks, couple forced fumbles, couple fumble recoveries. I liked him better in run block or in run defense too this year. I liked that development in his game. He's a smaller guy, 6'5", with only 240 pounds, but also he beefed up a little bit in the run game, which was nice to see. This guy that visited Florida State and then ended up at South Carolina. Good for them because they had a lot of guys transfer out last year, Jordan Birch and some others in the portal. He's a guy that can come in for 1 year or two, whatever it may be, and really ball out for them. And I think he'll do some good in the SEC as well.
Yeah, no, I'll enjoy seeing him in the SEC for sure. I think he'll be a pretty solid player. I think he was probably their best player that they got out of the portal. So maybe Rocket Sanders. I mean, you lose Juice Wells. Oh, you thought you had Brady Hunt. Sorry, we just found out that he flipped to Texas A&M just a little bit ago. Sorry about that, Gamecock fans. Yeah, he's probably your best player in the portal. I guess Jared Brown.
We love
I
Jared
love
Brown.
Jared Brown. He's way underrated. I see him as a 3-star and on three right here. Way underrated. He's very good. He's a Georgia native. But yeah, this is probably one of your better guys that you got in the portal, at least ratings wise, But I feel pretty good about this. I haven't gotten to watch Kyle a ton this year. Didn't catch all 13 Georgia Tech games, but I like this game from what I saw. So I'm gonna put myself down as a fan. Not a big fan, but I'm a fan. So I like this for the Gamecocks. Good pickup.
A good win too over Florida State and others that won him out. And obviously, hometown Georgia Tech. He's from Atlanta. Tough loss for them there, and obviously he'll go do some good things at South Carolina this year, and obviously probably in the NFL when his name gets called.
Let's go to let's get a big boy in here. Yeah, you don't hear a lot of big boy football being talked about in the transfer portal regarding the offensive line. Easton Kilty, number one, number two interior offensive lineman, right? Depending on what you're looking at. He's from North Dakota. This is a guy that a lot of schools wanted badly. But you know what? You know who gets him? Chris Kleiman over there at Kansas State gets him. A nice plug and play guy because you're gonna lose Cooper Beebe to the uh uh the NFL
NFL.
draft, right? Duh. Very good guard, one of the better guards in the entire country. and you're just replacing with one of the best transfer portal guards in the entire country as well. Did I watch a lot of North Dakota football this year? Put me on a lie detector. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and say no. I didn't watch a ton of North Dakota football this year. But all I'm hearing about and all these coaches are talking about, and the fact that he was so highly sought after in the transfer portal leads me to believe that this is a really good pickup for Kansas State. Profiles pretty well. You get a guard that's 6'5", 300 pounds. I'll I'll take it. I mean, I'll take it for sure. So you're not going to see a ton of monsters like that coming up in the transfer portal from the FCS levels. But here you are, from the Eagles of North Dakota.
Here's the thing. Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't watch a ton of his play in the regular season, but also like when he did play really good opponents, right? Like in their division, they or in their conference, they play really good teams like North Dakota State, South Dakota State, and some other really good teams in that conference. I believe it's the Missouri Valley. They also played Boise State this year, right? And he came up and he graded out really, really well on PFF, and that's something you love to see up in that competition, ready to come in right away and compete for a job and compete in the Big 12 for Kansas State. We've seen a lot of guys from that FCS ranks have success in the NFL and also in college in the FBS when they transfer up a level. Yeah, I'm really excited for this kid for him. He seems like a very energetic, very fiery player, and that's obviously something you want, right? With a guy with a chip on his shoulder, overlooked in high school, and Kansas State gets a good one here.
Yeah, and I more importantly than sure, if you guys want to go check out his film, I'm sure he's got a highlight tape. I'm sure it's awesome. I'm sure it's just him like road grading, pancake blocking guys. The more important part of the story though is like, you know, you're trying to figure out how do we replace Cooper on the offensive line. He's such a leader, such a dominant force there, and it feels like you got a pretty good replacement there. So that's what I'm going to take from that. And this is a great get. This kid's built built and raised in Wisconsin, which they produce some pretty good offensive linemen. Those cornbread fed white boys. Uh, as you say, I think he's gonna be pretty good. So I hope he works out, and I'll be watching him a ton this upcoming season. And look, when we start putting together, more stuff in the off season, we start putting together team previews and stuff. I will be watching more of his film, and I will be evaluating him. And I'll look. I mean, I'm not an X's and O's guy, but I love me a good pancake block, so I'm excited for that.
And also some positional versatility. He's a guy that played and started 23 games for North Dakota. Some at right tackle too, his redshirt freshman year. So you love to see that he probably fits in more at guard at the college at the FBS level and for Kansas State. But never a bad thing to have multiple swing tackles, swing guards on your team, especially with injuries and everything that happens there. In the transfer portal with all the depth you lose at every offseason and the attrition that you take in that O-line room, you always love a body like this, a guy with positional versatility.
The last guy we'll talk about today, Chris Brazzell, the second from Tulane, redshirt freshman, dog. Where's he end up going? Tennessee. Not the Houston. Doesn't follow Willie Fritz, right? Doesn't stay with John Summerall. Decides I'm going to go play SEC football. Yeah, I'm going to go play SEC football. And college fantasy football players, there's always a stigma, right? You have these G5 players transferring up to the Power 5 level, and they never really meet that hype necessarily. But this is just such another good weapon to surround Nico with there in Tennessee, and that's what you have to do. You got to surround your team with as good of weapons and as good of talent as you possibly can to put your quarterback in a situation where they can succeed. Right? At Tennessee, you get Brew McCoy, I believe, is coming back for another year. Right? You're gonna have Squirrel White again. You're gonna have Chris Brazzell. You're gonna have Key, right? He's coming back.
I think so.
So I'm a fan of this get, and obviously Chris Brazzell believes in the staff. I mean, they put Jalen Hyatt in the NFL, which if you can do that, you can do anything, right? So I'm a big fan. I guess fun fact about him. Well, 3 years of eligibility. I mean, that's automatically what makes him much more valuable. I think he's one of the best wide receivers in the transfer portal for that reason. I think he's undervalued for that reason. I think if you look at transfer portal ratings, there's a lot of wide receivers that are ranked ahead of him. I think you should get the eligibility bump. I really think you should.
I think that's part of the reason why guys like Dante Moore, Malachi Nelson are so high up. I believe that is factored in as a little bit for you guys, but also
but he's already a proven productive wide receiver. He was the leading receiver on Tulane this past year.
And he's also 6'5", right? Like those guys don't grow on trees. And to pair with a guy like Brew McCoy, a healthy Brew McCoy, those are two guys that are matchup nightmares. You throw in a guy like Holden Stays, the tight end from Notre Dame, that's also heading there. It's a really dynamic offense that he's trying to Nico with. like you mentioned. And obviously Brazil can go and get developed. I think the real miracle that he did there was get Velus Jones drafted. That
Oh,
guy stinks
Jesus.
in the NFL. But for
Yeah.
Tennessee, like he got him drafted in the third round. He tricked Ryan Poles into taking him for the Chicago Bears. And yeah, Brazil. Well, that was a good move for him. Would have loved to see him stick at Tulane.
Was that
Would
Poles or was that Pace?
that was Poles. That was Poles' first wide receiver pick.
Gosh, tough.
But regardless, I would have loved to see him stay at Tulane. I'd love to see him follow Willie Fritz to Houston. But for him, selfishly, like this is a really good move for him and his family and everything he can do in the future of his football career.
Yeah, I mean, what I was interested though is like I guess I didn't do a ton of research about the players that were in on Chris Brezzo. I'm surprised that Texas didn't make a bigger push, or Texas A&M. He's from Midland, Texas, which you don't know. A lot of significance in terms of football. If you've ever read the book Friday Night Lights, Midland is, kind of a lot of where that happens. Odessa, Midland, one of their rivals. So it pretty cool. You look at it this way, but with the ties to Texas, I thought he might have gone to a Texas school there, but Tennessee got a good one. I thought that was a fantastic grab. You win him over some big schools, and you already have a pretty crowded receiver room, so that's all. It's a bonus. If you can just add more depth, that's just a bonus. Thank you guys so much for checking us out in another episode of Transfer Portal and Coaching Carousel moves for this postseason. Again, it's postseason because we're gonna keep saying it's postseason. Even though you watch this after the national championship game that you watched, we have not watched the national championship game yet because it has not been played yet as of recording this. So please don't spoil it. Make sure you guys, the rule here, as we always say, like the content, like the video. Please consider subscribing. Our channel's growing so awesomely thanks to you guys. We can't thank you enough. But please check out our other coaching carousel videos and our other transfer portal videos if you're curious about some guys. Just look up the redshirt sophomore and then maybe a coach's name. Or because we're almost finished through all the coaches. I think we got 2 more coaches left that we got to talk about for the coaching carousel for head coaches. So, and then that's it. So, thank you guys so much. CD, you got anything else?
No, like you said, continue to like and subscribe, support our channel. We have a ton coming for the offseason. Don't you worry. Just because football games have stopped playing does not mean college football stops. We have so much to talk about. If you want us to talk about anything, though, let us know in the comments. Let us know in a DM on Twitter. Email us. All that stuff is in our description of this video. And yeah, consider subscribing us. We love the support from you guys, and we love doing this. We're going to have a lot of fun this offseason, continuing to cover college football and giving you guys the best every week game.
Yes, sir. And we will see you guys in the next one.